WBIG.
Bam! Just like that.
It's the big wake-up call on AM 1280 WBIG. I'm Ryan Gatenby, and very excited to be talking with our next guest, who is a rock and roll legend, the member of two, I don't want to use the word legend again, but two classic rock groups. The Guess Who, Bachman, Turner Overdrive, earned more than 120 gold and platinum albums, and is written a fascinating new book called Randy Bachman's Vinyl Tap Stories. Vinyl Tap like Spinal Tap. And we're going to talk with, of course, Randy Bachman. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Ryan.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show today. I absolutely loved the book, both as a rock and roll fan and as a guitar geek. I was pretty thrilled by a lot of your stories.
Thanks. It's nice to talk to any guitar geek.
And
we're all the same. We don't have enough.
Yeah, my wife is listening and nodding her head right now.
Yeah.
But so you're a kid in Winnipeg. You're getting into the guitar, and you happen to be able to have a personal meeting with Les Paul and starting a relationship that lasted throughout his lifetime.
Yeah, I went to see him at a club in Winnipeg. I couldn't get into a club because it was a supper club and they served liquor. And I had left school and taken a bus to the other side of Winnipeg, and I'm sitting on the lawn of this club called the Rancho Don Carlos, and up pulls a big black Cadillac, and in it's Les Paul, Mary Ford, and another guy in the back who was his son, who was the drummer at the time, and he starts to unload, and he says, "Would you help me unload?" And so I help him unload these 6 tape recorders, and he said, "Are you here for the show?" And I said, "Yeah, but I can't get in. I'm only like 16 or 17. The drinking age was 21, and I'm going home." And he said, "Just give me a minute." And he went and talked to the manager of the club, and he said, "This guy's helping me unload the gear." So I'm lifting these Ampex tape recorders, putting them in the kitchen. He said, "I want him to stand here and watch the tape recorders." So I stood in the kitchen and I watched the back of Les Paul and Mary Ford, because this kitchen had big doors, swinging doors, so the waiters would walk through with trays of food, but each door had a big round glass portal, so they wouldn't like walk into the door or bash each other. So I watched him through these about 1.5 foot round, 2 round glass portholes, and beside me were these tape machines that he was turning off and on because he was controlling them from his guitar. And he was explaining to the audience how he invented the Les Paul riser, how he did multi-track recordings, and he did the whole show that way. Then he came back and said, "Here, hold this, kid," and gave me his guitar, wiped his brow, went out and did an encore, came back and said, "Anything I could do for you?" And I said, "Yeah, show me a lick, please, this lick in How High the Moon." So he showed me the chord. I went home, and he signed the album I had taken there, and he went on his way. And many, many, many years later, I was opening for Van Halen on the 5150 tour with Bachman Turner Overdrive, and we played the Nassau Coliseum in New York City. And he comes in the dressing room, and he says hi to Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar and stuff, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Do I know you?" And I said, I saw you once at the Rancho Don Carlos in Winnipeg." And he goes, "Here, hold this, kid. Do you still remember the lick?" And I got a Gibson guitar and played the lick. It was incredible. Then he invited me to the Iridium Club, where he was playing every Thursday night, and he said, "There's a great guitar player in the audience. I'm wondering, who's this guitar player?" And it was me, and he called me up on stage, and he told this story, and I played How High the Moon with him, and then he said, "Let's do one of yours." So I had taken care of business, and him and his trio played with me on stage. Then he invited me to his place next day in Maupaw, New Jersey, to see, his acre of guitars and tape machines, and the next day was 9/11, 9/11.
Wow.
New York closed. I never got to go to his place. I never saw him from that point on. But just a few months ago, I was at the Iridium. I played his 93rd and 94th birthday party there, and it was a really thrill to go there and play and honor him, because I just have great memories of this guy. And I still play my 59 Les Paul, which was the sound of American Woman, and that guitar is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland on loan there indefinitely. Again, that's my Les Paul story.
Now, that's something I wanted to bring up to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I wanted to know, and as a fan of the Guess Who and BTO and Rush, why is there a bias against Canadian artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
You would have to ask the owner of that. The name is owned by Jan Wenner, who owns Rolling Stone magazine, and for some reason there's no Guess Who, there's no BTO, there's no Rush, there's no April Wine. However, he did like Leonard Cohen to put him in, I love Leonard Cohen, but he's not a rock and roller. He could be in the Poets Hall of Fame or something, and he's great, but he's not what you'd call a rock and roll deal. But I can't answer that question. I know there's been petitions going around for years with hundreds of thousands of signatures, but Jan Wenner seems to just ignore those. So that's about all I can say. That is that, and I've resigned. I'm never going to be in that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But that's life.
Because a friend of mine...
you can't always get what you want.
I have a friend of mine who grew up in Toronto, and we debate, maybe BTO needed to sell 31 million records. Maybe Rush needed to have 25 gold records instead of 24. We don't know.
Yeah.
And
nobody knows.
Another great story in the book, and it's unfortunate. I don't think they're as well known in the U.S. as they were in the U.K. and Canada. But it was really Hank Marvin of the Shadows who I think helped popularize the Strat, and you had a great opportunity. You actually acquired some of his gear.
I did, and he was a big influence on myself and Neil Young. If you hear Neil Young solo today, he's probably playing what Hank Marvin would have played, and so my solo in You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet is pretty much a Hank Marvin solo. I had a friend named Trevor Wilkinson who invented Wilkinson tremolos and Wilkinson guitars, and he knew Jim Burns' son, and when Burns' Guitars went bankrupt, they just closed the factory. And then the factory got opened like 28 years later, and he said they found 5 guitars on the bench. Would I like a guitar? And I said, you mean the white Hank Marvin Burns guitar? And he said, yes.
Wow.
So I got one of those. I took it to England when the Shadows reunited about 4 years ago for the 50th anniversary, and Hank Marvin signed the guitar. I got his guitar amp through Brian Adams from the Vox factory. I got Hank Marvin's guitar. On the internet, I got the Shadows' 20 greatest golden hits on a big gold record. I took all this as a fan to London to the Hammersmith Odeon, and I was lucky enough to get an audience with the Shadows. I got into their sound check. I sat in the front row with my wife and my daughter, and my daughter had no idea who they were, but she was 18 at the time. And they played 3 songs for me, and I'm the only guy there, and they jumped down. Hank gave me the red Strat to play, and I got pictures of me playing. I think it's on my website. And I took all my stuff as a real fan, and they signed and autographed everything. They were the sweetest, most wonderful guys. Later on, they played there again, and I took Neil Young there, and he got to meet Bruce Welch and Hank Marvin. And so we got to meet our pretty much guitar hero, who was Hank Marvin and Bruce Welch, who taught us great rhythm guitar and great lead guitar, and that has stayed with us our whole life.
And that has to be, you've done accomplished so much throughout your career, with writing the hits and the tours, but have that kind of the feedback and the respect from the people that you grew up idolizing. That has to be satisfying as a musician.
Well, it all boils down to one thing. All we were is little kids who play guitar with a dream.
Yeah.
And when you look at everybody like that way, nobody's a superstar. All they are is a kid with a guitar and a dream who maybe got lucky. And I think of everybody that way. Neil Young, Eddie Van Halen, we're all the same. We all sit down. I can show Eddie Van Halen a guitar lick. Neil Young could show me a guitar lick. Some 14-year-old kid out there can come to a gig and show me a guitar lick. And I go, wow, I've been hearing that for a zillion years. Didn't know how to play it. It's just where you put your fingers at the right time. And so we're all kind of students in a way. Anyone who plays guitar knows this. You're always a student, and you can always be a teacher because there's so many different styles of guitar and things you can play. It's the wonderfulest, most deepest instrument in the world because you hold it next to your body. It becomes part of you. It resonates on your chest. You feel everything you play. You put your arms around it. It's just an amazing instrument. I'm so happy I'm a guitar player and I collect guitars.
Randy, I wish we had more time. I know you have to go. Loved the book. It is Randy Bachman's Vinyl Tap Stories, and you can find out more about Randy at randybachman.com. You can find the songs. They're everywhere. They're all over the radio. Randy, so great to talk to you, and congratulations on everything. And if I ever run into you, I've got a great lick to show you.
Great. I've got one to show you. I'll trade you.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
Bye-bye.
The Big Wake Up Call.
You want to make this interesting?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
AM 1280 WBIG.
Celebrating 23 years in the business, Captured by Sheila is still...